College basketball season is officially here. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast, and it's one of the best times of the year. College basketball and college football going on at the same time. But if you're excited about Texas Tech men's basketball and the prospects of them potentially making it back to the NCAA tournament and year number one of Grant McCasland, all I want you to do is this. Look at the bottom of your screen. Type hashtag TTW. It stands for toughest team wins. This is the Texas Tech men's basketball motto for this season. And if you're excited to watch them play starting on Wednesday night out at the USA in the 806, type that for me down below in the comments section. All right. In today's video, we're going to give some Texas Tech men's basketball predictions. I'm going to give my final record prediction of the year. I'm going to give my breakout player pick. I'm going to give my Mr. Irreplaceable pick and Mr. Surprise pick. So if you're excited about that, be sure to like the video, as well as we're giving you daily Texas Tech men's basketball videos and football videos throughout the offseason and in the season as well. So you're going to want to join this Texas Tech community here, one of the most engaging ones on YouTube right here in the Back to 12 podcast channel. All right, this should be no surprise in terms of who my breakout pick is for year number one of Grant McCasland. I've talked him up all offseason long, and I'm really excited to see this guy, and it's the Nevada transfer, Darion Williams, 6'6", 215. He's a stud, man. I really like his game, and we're actually going to look at some of the tape right now for when it comes to, well, what we can expect potentially from Darion Williams. And let's just jump right into it because there's some interesting things here about his game. First and foremost, he is a really good passer. You can see it right there on the screen, right? He's a guy that he can be a primary ball handler at times and probably not for long stretches, but you don't feel bad about it. He's got that point forward mentality, and look at that pass right there to the big, right? Off the rebound, he can go down low, set a pick, go out, find the man, soft hands, boom, right to the big. And you think that works well at Nevada. Just think how well it's going to work with a guy like Warren Washington, a legit 7-footer, a guy that, well, we'll talk about here in just a second. He's also active on the defensive end. Again, I'm not saying he's going to be an all-conference defensive player, but he's got active hands. He understands passing lanes really, really well, and he can go in there and really create some issues potentially for opposing teams. Now, let's get to another strength here, and it's his spot-up shooting. This was one thing that I think Texas Tech prioritized in the portal. Okay, and it was spot-up shooting. He is 92nd percentile in terms of spot-up shooting per possession. Okay, 39% of the time, these are the kind of shots he's taken. And then he's 92nd percentile. He's got active hands. He's ready to catch and shoot at all times when the ball is not in his hands. Look at this. I mean, he's just right there. Great pass on the outside, spot-up shot. And then he's in transition. This is probably what he needs to work on a little bit. But for me, when I look at him, right, and I see where he can fit in for Texas Tech, this is a guy, again, that can be your primary ball handler at times and really create space for guys like Chance McMillan, Pop Isaacs, guys like that that are really good off the catch and shoot, even Darion Williams off the bench and Kerwin Walton as well, right? This is the kind of guy that you want to have that can see over the defense and is a good passer. Now, he's also a really good spot-up shooter, so that helps as well. When Joe Toussaint has the ball in his hands, Darrion can be ready to catch and shoot at all times. He's a guy that shoots north of 40% from the corner three spot. That'll play regardless of what league you play in. But I want to hear from you guys. Who is your breakout pick for Texas Tech men's basketball this year? Again, you can see who I'm obviously going with. It's obvious. I mean, I've talked about him all season long, or off season long, I should say. And Darion Williams, I truly believe he's a guy that can have an instant impact for the Red Raiders this season. All right, Mr. Irreplaceable. Feel like this one's pretty obvious as well, just from the lack of size on the team. But it's got to be Warren Washington, right? The 7-footer, the only guy on this team taller than 6'8", right? He's 230 pounds, center, super senior from Estacado, California. Texas Tech is his fourth school since he's been in college. Started at Oregon State, went to Nevada, went to Arizona State, and then transferred out here with his former teammate at Arizona State. I guess his current teammate now technically in Devin Cambridge as well. Let's look at some of the film and what you could potentially see from Warren Washington when it's all said and done, because this is a guy, in my opinion, that really, really stands out on the defensive end. And that's where we're going to start in terms of his block rate. He's just active, man. 22 right there. They get the bucket there, but look at him. He understands spacing well, and he moves well, right? You don't see that from a lot of bigs. He is super athletic, has really good feet, understands his size, where maybe he's not the most hefty guy weight-wise, but he understands athletically. He's probably more gifted than his opponents, and he understands how to use that athleticism on the defensive end at a high level. Again, a 7.3 block rate. That's really, really good, people. That's not quite elite, but it's pretty damn close, right? And look at this. He understands how to get off, go straight up. That was something that really stood out to me there in Brooklyn against VCU. He goes straight up, goes back down, and then he goes straight up. And then he's averaging 1.14 expected points per shot. Listen, he's not going to go out and shoot threes or anything, but he's going to be a lob threat for whoever the hell you got at the point guard position for the Red Raiders this year. And I think that that's something that is needed for Texas Tech, right? You look at what Texas Tech has on this roster, and I already mentioned it. They don't have a guy taller than 6'8" outside of Warren Washington. So if he can stay healthy, you're going to have to limit his minutes a little bit, probably in that 25-minute neighborhood, maybe a little higher, actually probably closer to 27, 28 on average for Warren Washington. But if he can stay healthy, I think that's a huge, huge deal for Texas Tech from a multitude of standpoints, for the sheer fact of, again, you don't have somebody that is taller than 6'8" outside of him, right? So that's a big deal for Texas Tech. Speaking of a big deal, I'm telling you what right now, people, this deal is absolutely crazy. Look at this shirt from Home Field Apparel. My goodness. Save 15% at homefieldapparel.com on your new favorite Texas Tech shirt. Look at this one right here. I'm telling you what, this is spicy. This women's national championship vintage tee from 1993. Then you got the vintage-inspired bomber jacket as well. I mean, look at some of the stuff they have on here. I love the tortilla toss shirt. They got a bunch of different vintage looks, but I'm telling you right now, as soon as I saw this go out, the vintage tee from 1993, I bought it. Simple and plain. And I used the code BACK212 to do so. So save 15% off your new favorite Texas Tech shirt over on homefieldapparel.com by simply using the code BACK212. And you can see where we're switching to right now. We're going straight into my Mr. Surprise here, and it's Chance McMillan. And again, spot-up shooting. We talked about it with Darion Williams. I was surprised after going back and looking at his tape just how much I actually like Chance McMillan. I was hard on him in terms of what he brought to the table when he first signed, but after watching a lot more tape, it's very apparent what Grant McCasland and crew see in him. He's an elite spot-up shooter, right? And he's a career 40% shooter from three, and he shot 44.4% from three last year, right? He was arguably the best three-point shooter in the portal. And you go out and get him. And this is the thing that really stands out. Texas Tech had guys last year that could shoot, right? There's no doubt about that. There were some really active shooters on this team for Texas Tech. But when it came down to it, they didn't have anybody that could just spot up and lights out shoot, right? Or get those guys the ball. Now they have multiple guys that can do that, whether that's Joe Toussaint, Pop Isaacs, Darion Williams, even Chance can do that as well. And now you have options to get them the basketball. That's really what stands out to me, okay? And here's the thing when it comes down to it. I was skeptical of Chance. I'm not going to lie about it. I thought he was one of those guys really where I was like, okay, he's just a shooter. He's much more than that. And he really is apparent after you watch the film. He's got active hands. He's a lot more athletic than I gave him credit for early on. I think he's going to be a guy that not only surprises me when I watch the actual games for Texas Tech starting on Wednesday, but maybe some other people too that weren't paying attention to the portal as much as others. All right, y'all have been patient with me. Let's talk about the NCAA tournament odds and my official prediction for Texas Tech when it comes down to their final record and if they make the NCAA tournament. Here we go. Some odds real quick before we get into my predictions. Texas Tech has the 8th best odds to win the Big 12 at plus 2,500. That's tied for 45th best odds to win the NCAA tournament. Just putting it out there, right? Means Vegas views them right above the bubble not comfortably in the NCAA tournament. If they drop a game or two, they shouldn't. They're probably right on that fringe line, but Vegas thinks they are an NCAA tournament team, as does ESPN Bracketology. They have Texas Tech as one of the first 4 teams in. As for my record prediction for Texas Tech men's basketball, this is my final record prediction. I'm not changing it. I have Texas Tech going 18-13 on the year, 7-11 in the Big 12, and they make the NCAA tournament in year number 1 of Grant McCasland. Simple and plain, this is the reason why. Okay, I think if this team stays healthy, I think it's drastically changed from years past. I think this team is actually going to play to its strength. Just a novelty idea. No one's ever thought of that. Well, I guess Grant McCasland did, because other coaches that Texas Tech have had previously definitely haven't, right? And now you're playing to your strengths. You're going to see a lot more running. You're going to see a lot more athleticism, and you're going to see a lot more shooting on this roster for Texas Tech, and that is playing to the strengths. But first and foremost, the biggest reason I'm picking Texas Tech to make it back to the NCAA tournament, Grant McCasland. Simple and plain, he freaking wins wherever he goes. He's a winner, man. It doesn't matter what kind of roster he has. Look at Arkansas State. He got them to their first NCAA tournament appearance in 20 years, in his first and only year on campus. He did the same thing for UNT, right? He beat Purdue in the NCAA tournament. He is a flat-out winner, right? And he's got a team that he really likes. And I think Texas Tech, they're not going to be world beaters by any stretch of the imagination, right? But they're going to make the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. And now I want to hear from you guys. Will Texas Tech men's basketball make the NCAA tournament in year number 1 of Grant McCasland? Just a simple Y for yes or in for no. Let me know down in the comments below. And before you head out, be sure to type hashtag TTW, toughest team wins, down in the comments below. This is the Texas Tech men's basketball team motto for the 2023-2024 season. And if you're excited about this basketball team, type that down in the comments below. I am RC Maxfield reminding you, if you want the latest news, rumors, and everything in between when it comes to Texas Tech men's basketball, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button to stay in the know right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.